Thank you everyone for coming. Welcome. I'm Roseanne Hansen with Exploring Overland, and I kind of operate the Field Arts Institute part of Exploring Overland. And Jonathan?
I'm Jonathan Hansen, Overland Tech and Travel, etc., etc.
The goal of today's workshop is to introduce you to this concept of designing your ultimate overland vehicle, or buying one if you haven't bought one yet, and how we went around about doing it. We'll start with the history of how we ended up with our kind of ultimate vehicle, a 1993 Land Cruiser troop carrier from Australia. And then we will have a slideshow and talk about that, how we went about some modifications and in what order, where we went. And then we will switch to a video walk-around tour, which we will narrate as we go. And a quick rundown of its 4 years with us exploring 3 continents. So, well, as I already said, welcome. Thank you guys for logging in to our Designing a Vehicle Build and our virtual Land Cruiser Troopy Tour, the first that we've ever done online. We've introduced ourselves. If you don't know, Jonathan and I co-founded Overland Expo. We're now the former owners. And so we've got well over 35 years of experience overlanding, outfitting vehicles, and having adventures all over the world with them. So how did we get started with a Land Cruiser Troopy? How did we end up with one in 2016? So every year, since Jonathan's been collaborating with Tom Shepard at Desert Winds in England on the Vehicle Dependent Expedition Guide, we go to England to visit Tom, talk about the books, and just visit because he's a lovely person. And something happened weird in 2016 when I went to book flights for England. They're usually, $1,100, $1,000, and this time I was seeing $2,600 was as cheap as I could get per person to go to England. And I thought, whoa, and while I was looking at the screen, this popped up. $800 per person round trip to Sydney, Australia, which we'd never been to. So I stuck my head out the office and said, hey, Jonathan, how'd you like to go to Australia instead of England? And Jonathan said,
Sure. So we quickly roped in our friends, Graham Jackson and Connie Rodman, who'd been wanting to go to Australia as well. And in fact, Graham had a route picked out that he wanted to do. So our next task was to get vehicles. And the first route I tried was renting them. It's very easy to find fully equipped expedition vehicles in Australia for rent. However, as you can see from here, they tend to be really, really expensive on a per day basis. I persevered, kept trying different companies, and found out that not only was it going to cost us $7,000, $8,000 to get what we wanted for as long as we needed, but it turned out they wouldn't even let us take the vehicle where Graham wanted to take us. It was too far off the beaten track, too remote. So that pretty much scotched where we wanted to go in the first place. So I decided to take a different tack and started looking at classified ads on various places in Australia, and found out that indeed we could buy a vehicle for not much more than the rental was going to cost us. And not only that, get a vehicle that both of us had coveted for a long time, the 70 series troop carrier, which is sort of Toyota's premier expedition platform, and has been for 30 years now. So I sort of did this gentle fly casting bit with Roseanne and said, hey, look, here's a vehicle for only this much money. And she kind of, oh, yeah, it's not a bad idea. And as soon as the hook was set, then I started sort of raising the stakes a bit and looking at better and better vehicles. And after we talked for a while, we finally agreed that if we were going to do this, we wanted to get the best one possible. We didn't want to just go as cheaply as possible. It was going to be a huge investment. We decided we'd want to fix it up and bring it home. So we finally wound up finding in Darwin on the north coast of Australia a really clean 1993 troop carrier. And that was an important year because in 1993, 25 years later, they're legal to import. So that meant that we could import this vehicle in 2008 to the United States with no trouble at all.
2018.
2018, sorry. So we looked at it, got as many photographs as we could, as much information as possible from 6,000 miles away, and then gritted our teeth and made a bank transfer and got it. That was just the start of everything, because from Darwin, we had it put on a train and a truck and shipped to Sydney, Australia, where in the meantime, we had found the Expedition Center, a fellow named Daniel there who does pop-top conversions and various other modifications to vehicles, both Land Cruisers and Land Rovers. So this is our vehicle when it first landed there. So we bought the vehicle on scene, shipped it 4,000 miles across Australia, and then the next thing we did was to have the roof sawn off. Because
that was shocking.
it was very shocking to get this photo in an email.
This is not helpful.
So Daniel does what's called a Mulgo, his own brand, pop-top conversion, which converts a troop carrier into basically a very compact camper with full standing headroom in the back and a drop-down bed. So next, there we are with, that's our Land Cruiser on the left. And in the meantime, Graham and Connie had found a Land Cruiser of their own and bought that sight unseen as well. They turned out to get at least as good a deal as we did, because they found a note in the glove box from the previous owner, who turned out to have been a diesel mechanic. So their vehicle had been just impeccably maintained for its entire life. So we both wound up doing really well on the vehicles.
So we headed out on this trip to crossing the Simpson Desert on the Madigan line with just the pop top and the basics. We had some initial accessories delivered, the winch, the lights, which we'll be going into exactly what they are on our walk around. We left it in the original seats, which we'll talk about that in a bit as well. And then for the inside, we got a new National Luna fridge, and we had brought with us in our baggage a Can's kitchen, the camp kitchen, which has the stove in it and all the equipment you need for cooking. Because we wanted to do our final build that we were planning around that kitchen. So everything just strapped in. We had wolf packs for the gear and jerry cans for water. And that's how we did it. We did also have them put in the solar panel and the Max tracks. You can see on the pop-up there. So our camp was basic. It was great, perfect weather in Australia to have outdoor camps. This was pretty much how we did it every day, setting up. And traveling with Graham Jackson is awesome because he's got braai in the blood. He does braai is barbecue in South Africa, and he just every night cooked something amazing. So
it was a protein heavy trip.
That National Luna, we'll talk about how much freezer space for meat there was.
So our design parameters, first of all, above all of this, we didn't want to modify the footprint of the vehicle, and we didn't want to raise the profile of the vehicle. Personal choice, but we just wanted to keep it tidy and as maneuverable and as economical as possible. So that precluded modifying the bodywork too much. The Mulgo pop top only adds less than 1.5 inches to the top of the vehicle from its stock height. So it adds almost unnoticeable amount of height. Everything else we wanted to fit inside. So there are our parameters there. We wanted the pop top with the bed, which we got. with enough room to leave bedding in it with the top closed, so we didn't have to have a separate duffel bag for bedding bouncing around the car.
And this was a list we developed throughout the trips and throughout our lives in the last 30 years, 35 years together. So this is kind of the amalgamation of everything we knew we wanted in this ultimate build. So
the ones are the interior kitchen with the cans kitchen as a modular unit, so that we could either cook inside in bad weather or pull the kitchen out and set it up on its legs, as you saw in that last photo, when we were either going to be in one place for a long time or just wanted to cook outside in nice weather. We wanted an exterior propane tank mount for safety, also to save interior space. We wanted enough food and water, which is the critical part, for up to 12 days or so to be completely self-contained. We wanted pressure water. We already had the solar panel to help recharge the batteries for the fridge and LED lighting. We wanted room at the rear for 2 wolf packs holding recovery gear, and you'll see those in a bit. We've used wolf packs for quite a while, and they're excellent for recovery gear and camp setup equipment. We wanted the fridge accessible from the back door without climbing in, so in case we just wanted to grab a Coke or a snack, we didn't have to climb in or pop the top or anything. And then enough storage space in cabinets so that we didn't have anything loose on the floor lying around or bouncing around in the event of an accident or something.
So these were the things we knew we wanted, and throughout the trip kept careful track of exactly how we wanted to build out this enormous interior. Because really, the interior of a Land Cruiser, it's like a cavern. It's so big. It doesn't seem like it from the outside, but it has a tremendous amount of space. So we had 3 weeks on this initial trip to plan, and then get it onto paper to get back to Daniel. So interestingly, when I remember that a long time ago, 1993, on our really first big overland trip to the Arctic Ocean, I had done a sketch of what I thought would be a perfect interior of, and this was the back of a pickup truck. And interestingly, a lot of these things I had sketched back then ended up being what we ended up with. So I used a photo of the interior of the truck, and there you can see that's the rear seat hasn't even been taken out yet, but I used it to start sketching in ideas using the paper app on my iPad Pro and the pencil. And then I could erase things and change things and take notes. And, you know, we did this throughout the trip and got some pretty good ideas down this way. You can see there, I was still thinking we'd have to have water inside like we had with the 4-wheel camper, which had to incorporate the water under was that in the front of the 4-wheel camper?
Yes.
Yeah, which we didn't end up having to do with this, and we'll show you how we solved that. So on the plane home, we drew this on the iPad, and this was what we came up with. And you will get to see this in person, but you can see how I took careful notes. I got the proportions right, but I knew the measurements would be done by Daniel, and we would work back and forth on that. But I did the left, the right, and then a top-down view. And honestly, looking at this, the only thing that we couldn't work out was there wasn't enough room I wanted to put the chairs back in the back, easy to get from the doors, and that there wasn't enough room for that. So that was the one thing that just didn't work about this. So I emailed this to Daniel when we got back. And what, Jonathan, how long did it take to do this?
Not long. I was amazed at how quickly the CAD drawings came back, just exactly what we were hoping for. Looked like it had plenty of storage space. The cans was easy to get out. There was room at the back for the wolf packs. The fridge was right there as soon as you open the door. So it looked great. So we said, yeah, let's do it.
Yep, wired him the funds. And we'll kind of run down at the end what our final costs were for everything, but just really roughly, the pop top was about $9,000 US, and the interior was about 10,000, maybe a little less.
So next trip there, again, we're doing all this from 6,000 miles away. So our next trip in 2017 then?
Yep, this was 6 months later.
Yep, and this was just Roseanne and me this time. So we were able to see the modular kitchen and galley and cabinets before they went in. This is Roseanne just checking out the right-hand side cabinets with the Cannes kitchen already in place. All looked good. So that's the photo of the finished interior right then on that first trip. You can see the two low cabinets on the left, lengthwise and crosswise, which provide a huge amount of storage. And
yeah,
then,
we'll be given that. That's all part of the. We'll show you that kind of in the tour as well. You'll get a closer look at those, but
bridges
we
on the
we haven't filled it up yet. Then over the next 3 years, we took a total of 4 trips in Australia. The Madigan line, down to Tasmania. We did really explore the red center, they call it, the deserts there. And then, in 2018, our last trip with Graham and Connie came back this time, and we crossed the Western deserts following the Len-Bedell tracks to Perth, where we popped the 2 Land Cruisers in a container and shipped them to Durban. And then in 2009, luckily we had a friend in Durban, Graham did, who babysat the Land Cruisers until 2019, and we returned and spent a lot of time exploring South Africa, Botswana, and Namibia. Then we popped it on in another container. Graham's initially had left his there. We popped ours on a container and shipped it to Houston. So at that point, we had put on about 29, a little bit less than 29,000 kilometers, 18,000 miles over the years. And so now I'm going to check the chats here briefly while okay, no questions yet. So if you think, write down your questions so that when we get to the end of the tour, we'll interface with you guys on questions. So I don't have any yet. So what I'm going to do is now switch to the tour if we're ready for the video tour. Okay, everyone see, Jonathan, is that showing us the video tour now?
Looks like it. Yep.
Okay, we'll find out. All right, so on the tour here, we're going to start with a quick sequence showing the total setup of the vehicle. And I mean a quick sequence. And then we'll take our time kind of going around the vehicle, and we'll pause and stuff. While I'm running this, I won't be able to check the chat. So we'll have to do it at the end because I'll have to shut everything down on that. So we're going to get going now on our walkabout. First, it actually took longer to set up the chairs than to set up the whole camp.
So here's the engine compartment of the vehicle, and if Roseanne will pause it just right about, don't need to look at the air cleaner, right there. This is powered by the Toyota's 1HZ diesel engine. It's a 6-cylinder overhead cam, naturally aspirated engine. It was introduced in 1990, so vehicles with this engine are now legal to import. And this engine was so successful, so durable, so reliable that it's still in production. You can still buy a Land Cruiser in Africa powered by this engine. So really super engine. We love this, the power it produces and the economy. So going on from the back here, you can see we have a National Luna controller for the dual battery system, which are right there. Up in front of that is the ARB compressor for the rear locker in the differential, which we had installed there. And going down here, you'll see I replaced the really wimpy factory horns with some nice, really loud Hello horns. And then if we can pause again about there, we installed ARB Intensity 21 driving lights, which are super expensive lights, but just absolutely fabulous. They're worth every penny. I think because of the poor planning that inevitably happens on trips like this, we wound up driving at night a couple of times in Australia where, as you might know, there are very large marsupials bouncing across the road, which are nocturnal. And these lights paid for themselves several times, pointing out big things bouncing across the road that we couldn't have seen otherwise. Underneath there is the Warren winch, which is it's a 9000 XDS, which means it's got came equipped with synthetic line. And this is an ARB bumper that they actually made for Toyota back in the day. Still has the stock hook on it. I haven't put any fancy winch hook on it yet. So from there, we'll transition up the top of the roof. We already mentioned the nice bracket for the MaxTrax recovery boards there. Nice and secure and protected from branches. And the back is the 125 watt solar panel, which helps keep the battery charged for the fridge.
And then the tracks on there are infinitely adjustable tie down areas.
And the nice thing about the Mogo top is you can walk anywhere on this roof. It's super, the aluminum is super strong. So if we want to get up there for game viewing or photography, it holds our weight effortlessly. You can see the Easy On BAT 270 awning we put on there. And back here we'll see the Kmar rear bumper, which is a really high quality unit with 2 swing outs for fuel, water, extra water can. You can see the empty container or holder for the propane tank there on the right.
The table is one of my favorite features. I worked with Daniel quite a bit on this. Tables are like one of the hardest things to store, a decent sized table in your overlanding rig. They're big, they're bulky, they fall over. So he designed one that slides into a spot you'll see in the interior storage area. And each of the legs is infinitely adjustable micro adjustments. So if you're on slightly uneven ground, it also raises up to prep height or for working on, engine parts or whatever you need to do. Love that. And you'll see that in just a second.
So down here, I was mentioning the wolf packs, and that's one of the wolf packs there that used to be South African ammunition containers was their origin, and they're now manufactured commercially and sold by companies such as Frontrunner. I modify one of ours with 1/4 inch thick aluminum diamond plate on top, which converts it into a step as well as a storage container, so it does double duty.
And when they're riding in the vehicle, I'll show you in just a second, they go right there. So these are the two. The bottom one is recovery gear. The top one is camper setup. So leveling blocks, hammers, stakes for the awning, all the fire starter stuff goes in there. So it's quick and easy to grab and acts as a step as well. And then behind that, that's how the table slides in. So absolutely brilliant, and it clicks in. So just love that. You can see there, the bag I keep there is actually just a tool bag I got in Australia. It was cheap. And this is kind of an important part of my kit for the pantry and kitchen. So in that bag are our plates, utensils, little cutting board, all my spices, oil, vinegar, things like that, plus our coffee and tea making setup. So, you know, with supplies. So that is always accessible, whether I have the kitchen inside the truck or set up outside. I've always got my utensils, spice bag, everything ready to go, or it's ready to go for lunch. Anywhere we stop, just grab, easy.
And it rides on top of the fridge when the wolf packs are.
Yeah, I strap it down. So that was the sexy interior before we got it all dirty. So the fridge is
a National Luna Weekender 50, which has both a freezer compartment that you can see with the blue lid there and a fridge compartment on the right. So that was nice for freezing meat for a long trip. There's a front runner fold down table on the back with a wood side extension that slides out. So there's a nice prep area right there for doing stuff outside. There's our Bry grill, which we used virtually every night on Instagram. And we've got a Worthington aluminum propane tank, which are expensive but really nice. And that sits on the other wolf pack, upended for use inside. We just scanned by that. That's the water fill there. I'm going to stop here for just a second. I'll talk about this in a minute, but notice the Michelin Man rubber donut thingies on the left there. I want to mention those later, but we can zoom past that now. Underneath on the back axle, see the heavy duty springs there, and then right there, situated between the frame wheels, if you can stop there, is, it's a little past it, but that's okay.
Oh, I can back up.
That's okay. That's a 95-liter water tank, so almost 25 gallons. Fits completely under the chassis, best possible place for weight distribution, fills from the outside and provides pressure water to the inside. And then behind the rear axle we've got a Long Ranger fuel tank. And if you can stop there again, this is a 180-liter tank. The stock rear tank on the Land Cruiser holds 90 liters. And it turned out ours was fairly badly corroded and we needed to replace it. And as it happens, this aftermarket Long Ranger tank, which has double the capacity, actually costs less than a replacement factory tank. So we now have 180 liters of fuel in the back, plus the 90-liter tank in the front, which gives us a total US-wise of 71 gallons of fuel. So
it's easy to forget to fill up. It's so far and few between.
Yeah. Notice the missing bolt on the hub, which I just noticed as we were doing this film, which I need to fix. Up front, we've got stock Aisin hubs. We have disc brakes, and someone unfortunately tried to modify the braking system and put in these cross-drilled discs, which are completely useless. They don't do anything. I wrote an article about that some time ago. In the back, the Land Cruiser, of course, has fully floating rear axles for heavy load carrying capability. Also has disc brakes. Right now we've got 16 by 7-inch wheels on it. I would love to find slightly narrower wheels to fit the tire size we really like, but these work just fine. In the front, if you can stop there, please. When we got to Perth, we had started noticing a noise coming through the steering wheel, and neither Graham nor I could pinpoint where the damn noise was coming from. We had a lot to do in Perth, so we took it to a mechanic. The mechanic assured us that it was in the springs that we had installed in Sydney. it didn't seem right, but we thought, okay, fine. So they replaced the springs. That turned out not to be the noise, which is a whole other story. But in the meantime, I need to work on these springs because that shackle angle is not correct. A shackle should meet a spring at about a 90-degree angle to the spring. So what happens with this one is it's got a lot more compression travel than it does extension travel. So I need to work on that, just a small note. I also need to replace the shocks because one of the shocks we had put on with this suspension system has already failed. So I'll probably go to Coney's, which would be my preference.
All right, so now we're going to transition to going inside the vehicle. And as we said, the rear is standing headroom, pretty tall. I think just under 6 foot could stand up there, and Jonathan and I can both stand up at the kitchen. You can see the bed up there being held by its struts. The fabric is nice and watertight, but it's also bright. I really like that. And it has nice big windows with insect screen and Velcro coverings. And there you can see the rail that the bed rests on when the roof is down. And now I'm going to pull down the bed, which is a nice double bed, nice and comfortable. I think Jonathan mentioned this already, but what's great is you can leave your bedding, put the sheets and a down comforter or sleeping bags up there, and even your pillows, and close it and not have to remake the bed every night on the trips. Oh, that just showed we get on the fridge to get in. So nice, solid, good quality fridge as a step. There you can see the sink that pops up the faucet, and there I'm setting that up. And now we'll look at some of the storage there. There's storage on the side. That's where we put our chairs when they're broken down. There's 2 hatches for one big storage space. And it holds a lot of stuff. We have spare struts in there, the legs for the cans kitchen, and boots. We put our spare boots in there. That's our library bag that has all of our field guides. And this is the front storage where we put, so that's got tools, a spare small shovel for doing the fire stuff.
Spare parts.
We also say that, sorry?
Spare parts.
And spare parts. Showing the pantry store, part of the pantry storage now, or actually the most important beverage area. So this is the bar area. So I use those are actually inserts for a photo bag to carry big lenses. So they each have 3 compartments. So that's where we put the wine or whiskey bottles, and then the tea and coffee makings under that. So most important storage in the vehicle right there. And then there are 2 drawers with snap locks that are operated through the simple system. Just put your finger through the hole and those snap the drawers shut. And then below these drawers, that's where we built in the wolf packs on sliders. And what I love about this is these are cavernous. We have never run down the food in these. It carries so much food in them. And what's really nice, besides being dust proof, pretty watertight, is they can come out and go with me if I'm setting up outside. And then they're pretty critter proof too. So if they're sitting outside. Right above them is a little pull-out table in case we are stuck inside. And then we're opening up the cans kitchen here, which just fit beautifully. I was also really pleased with the aesthetics. I really like the way everything looks in the cruiser. It fits. It's not too fancy. Inside is a partner steel stove, one of the best stoves made, for incredibly rugged, made for the river running industry. We really love them, Cook Partners. And then inside the can's kitchen are drawers for cooking utensils and slots and spaces for the cook set. I like my Snow Peak cook set. It's all nesting, good quality steel, and everything's padded so it doesn't rattle. And then underneath is another huge area with lantern, the volcano kettle. There's a Nemo shower, and all the spare paper towels and stuff. And I'm gonna pause here.
So under the sink on the left is the battery monitor system there to check. On the right is the gauge for the water tank. And in the middle, unfortunately, that's the control for the faucet, and it's either on full blast or off. And that's one of the things I want to change, is to make some sort of a adjustable control on there.
What I really like about this setup too is we can make coffee and tea outside or lunch or whatever, and it's easy to pass through there the hot water or the food that you're preparing. One thing we do also carry, I mentioned the volcano kettle, which is will make hot water. You actually build a fire in the middle of Google it, volcano kettle. It's pretty cool. You build a fire in the middle of the kettle. So we use that, or we have a small burner that screws onto the top of the propane tank outside while it's still attached to the vehicle. So we can make coffee and tea in the morning on the road, no problem, without having to pop the top. Another reason I keep all these things kind of modular.
One of the things we noticed on the first trip was that the factory seats were pretty well shot. So we bit the bullet on this. This is the second most expensive modification we did. We installed a pair of Recaro seats, second to the pop top. I think this was the most important thing. And it was worth it, because these made long days in the outback bearable. And of course, the first thing you do when you buy a pair of expensive seats is hide them with canvas covers so they don't get wrecked. So that's been a marvelous addition. Daniel made this nice little container for glasses and things, since we don't have a radio anymore. Down here, this is going to be one of our modifications we'll do soon. We just have these soft containers for stuff, but I want to build a custom center console and behind the seat console. Up in front underneath, you'll see down below is the battery monitor for the National Luna controller, and then the controllers for the compressor and the rear locker, the ARB locker.
Other than that, we kept the interior pretty stock.
So back here behind the driver's seat is a little compartment underneath the sink. There's an air hose there. Underneath that is a micro start for emergency starting, and an ARB tire repair kit, which a lot of you will recognize. And then to the side here, if Rosanna will stop it right there, is a ARB twin air compressor, which I've come to be a complete disciple of. I think they're the best compressor on the market now. Built in, ready for filling tires or blowing off the back of the vehicle of dust, which is really handy. So continuing on behind that, you'll see the pressure pump for the water. And then over to the side is the charge controller for the photovoltaic panel right there. And below that is the fuse panel for all the auxiliary electronic devices. So got a whole control center in one nice spot that's very well protected, easy to get to, and easy to replace things if we need to. That was Daniel's idea, and I thought it worked really well.
This was maybe like the next favorite thing added is the easy on batwing awnings at the 270.
Yes, 270, as in 270 degrees.
Awnings they're really expensive, and they can be really fussy and difficult to set up, and they can flap and be difficult to deal with. And we found this one to just be absolutely super quick to set up. And we used it quite a bit when we went to Tasmania, when it rained quite a lot, and we spent a lot of time under it.
So there's a fitting on the side of the roof. You can see that tensions it so instantaneously, keeps it nice and taut. It's the legs just slide out of little nacelles and drop down and adjust very easily. And while I won't be doing it here, after the legs are all down, we always stake it down. It's fully self-supporting, but you don't want to leave it up without being tied down if any kind of a breeze comes up. There's a lot of surface area there. We also bought 2 wall panels, so we can actually enclose almost a whole spare room outside with this to give us extra living space.
Yeah, if we were going to be any place for more than 2 or 3 days, I would set that up and even have the outdoor shower out there. I have a pop-up outdoor shower enclosure, and I use the Nemo showers, so that's nice and simple. And the total breakdown time is what? We're not going this fast, like 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes to get everything packed up, yeah, leisurely.
Even morning, I think, yeah. Zoom.
And that was it. All right. So let's see. Okay, we've got some questions now. And so if you have questions, put them in the chat, and then as we go, I can also we can chat with people too by voice as well. But let's get a few of the chat questions. Yes. So costs. The vehicle was ended up being $16,000 US, but just itself. And then I think I mentioned the roof was about 9,000, and then the interior was about 10, including everything. We have a total into the vehicle of about $43,000, not including the Vaqueros. So, I mean, you can't even get a new 4Runner for that, can you?
Just about.
Just about. So, quick question on location of the fridge. I wanted it at the back of the Troopy too, but I see everyone normally puts it at the front, near the front seats. I think that is because the fridge is so large. How has it worked for you at the back? Good question, Bosworth. Well, I can tell you some of the Australians have their fridges up near the front seat so they can get beer as they drive. And I'm not kidding. We never saw so much beer drinking so early in Australia.
Any place that has drive-in liquor stores, drive-through, literally.
Yeah, that too. Graham and Connie like theirs up at the front so they can they get to it from behind the driver's seat, and that's also because of just convenience. They prefer it that way. So I really prefer it at the rear so I can stand back there and cook at the outside and get to my fridge without having to walk all the way around. I can also access it if I'm in the vehicle. I just couldn't figure out how to design it with it up against the seats. Just couldn't do that. So I really like it at the rear.
I think it's worked out very well. The only disadvantage I've seen to it is it makes, if you need to get into the vehicle with the wolf packs in place, there's a very narrow opening there.
Yeah, neither of us can gain any weight.
Right.
So it's a good diet tool.
It's great back there.
We're going to go through what modifications and what we like and dislike. I'm going to go back to that in just a second. The Batwing, the 270 awning is easy on, and I'm going to put some links for you into the chat. In fact, let me just do that right now real quick. There are 2 PDFs for you to download. Here's the first one. This is a magazine article we did that has tons of information and all the photos. And then the second one is an additional, you know, all the brands and information are on there. So you can click on those. Oops. Nope. Let me do that again. So I messed up there. I sent the wrong one. So just the Dropbox one, that's got the information. The second one I sent is actually a survey I'd like you guys to do. So save that. I'll email it to you too. So don't worry about that at the moment. Comments on the Wolfpack plastic versus Zargus aluminum. Good question. Jonathan, do you want to take that one while I get the going?
That is a good question. I love Zargus cases. They don't make as good of a step as the Wolfpack does with the aluminum on top of it, although keeping away from plastic is always fine with me. I like the Wolfpacks because they just seem to be a perfect Goldilocks size, and I'm sure you could get a Zargus case the same size, it would probably fit there. We have a whole bunch of Zargus cases, and I love those as well. So if a Zargus case in the same configuration, the same spot would work absolutely well too, just as weatherproof, lighter, and considerably more expensive. I like them both.
We had another question about weight distribution.
Yeah, I saw that, and I know what the front to rear weight distribution is because when we had the suspension put in, the company that did it measured all four corners of the vehicle. And for the life of me, I can't remember what the front and rear weight distribution is. I know that they didn't have to do a whole lot of extra on the back that you might have thought they would. So it seems to be pretty good. The Troopy's meant to carry a lot of weight in the back. It's got that huge cavernous back end that throws back echoes when you talk into it if there's nothing in it. So handling wise, I haven't noticed any disadvantage. Even when we've got full fuel and full water, it seems to ride and handle pretty well. So sorry, I can't remember
We can share that. So I will be putting all of this on the website with resources and downloads, and I will post the report from the spring company that did the measurements. So you can see that it's extensive, but these vehicles are amazing at carrying weight. That's just what they were designed for. You saw how huge those springs were. So what worked? What do we like the most? It was so cool that after all these years, you know, all of our notes and sketches and things, we love the interior design. We wouldn't change a thing. I just love it. Jonathan already mentioned the seats. Every time we go somewhere, we're like, yeah, that was money well spent. You know, it hurts at first, but if you've ever ridden in original Land Cruiser seats,
especially after they've been sat in for 25 years by Australians who drink a lot of beer.
Yeah, it was sagging. Okay, so Jonathan, you want to talk about these that Sumo Springs thing and the shocks that you want to do?
Yeah, are you going to put up the list? Because I don't see it here.
Oh.
All I see is a black screen that says Roseanne has started screen sharing. Nope.
That?
There it is.
Okay. Yeah, occasionally Zoom does that. So sorry for the black screen then. So we love the interior design, the seats.
One thing I would change. I would like to have a sink that's about 2 inches wider than it is. The reason being that sink, I'm the one who does the dishes, and a plate will not quite fit inside that sink. So when I'm doing dishes at night and trying to rinse dishes, water goes everywhere because I can't fit the damn plate all the way. So that's on
it's a small sink, so.
Along with the adjustable water so that I can just get a trickle.
Yeah. So how about the Sumo Springs and the cone?
The Sumo Springs, I was unfortunately talked into from 6,000 miles away. It's kind of a jive overload, glorified bump stop thing, and I don't like them. I think they reduce the compliance of the suspension. To me, it's a Band-Aid to me, the spring itself should be doing the springing, not some rubber baby buggy bumper thing stuck in above it. So I plan to get rid of those, and if I need to do anything to the actual springs to fix it, I will. The shocks, as I've said, we already lost one, and with only 18,000 miles on them, less than that, that's not a good thing. I'd rather go with Coney. Coney makes Expedition shocks that are the best in the world as far as I'm concerned. We'd really like to have a pressure water tap out at the rear of the vehicle. Right now, there's a gravity feed hose from the tank that tucks up behind the bumper that's really hard to get to. It just barely trickles water, and it's guaranteed to be full of dirt or mud or whatever you've driven through. So Graham and Connie have a nice pressure water tap with a master switch out of the back of theirs, and I want to do that. We want to do that as well. We already mentioned the different switch for the sink. I want just a regular dial somehow, which I can do. Love to find better struts for the pop top. We've been through 3 already, and that's just unacceptable. They always leak. We carry spares, but I'd really like to find better ones.
And of course, you don't discover that they've failed until you've been driving for, all day, and you get into camp and your pop top won't stay up. So yeah, that was fun. It did it 3 times on us. So
we want a better, faster system for the Can's Kitchen. Right now, you can take it out, but it's a real pain. I'd like to have something that would make it a 5-minute job in case it's just nice outside and we just want to cook outside. I already mentioned
my question, honey.
did we have a question? Oh, okay, go ahead, Jonathan.
I want to build a nice console for the front that will also extend behind the rear seats for our binoculars, drinks, all the accessories we like to keep up there. I'll probably mock up something in cardboard and then either make it out of very thin plywood or have someone make it out of steel. And Roseanne wants a better iPad mount because she spent 18,000 miles navigating with an iPad on her lap in this thing, and it's time for something different.
Yeah, and I've got the RAM mount for it, but I'm just still not decided exactly where I want to have it to mount it. And I know Chris Marzoni's on this call, and I'll probably be talking to you about how you do yours because that I don't want to drill into the truck until I know exactly where I want it. And there's not a lot of room in the front in the passenger or the driver area. So I don't want to have to do that twice. And then the big debate that we're still having.
Finally, Jonathan, being a guy, has fantasies of dropping the later 1HDT engine in there, which has 50% more power and gets better fuel economy.
And I just don't like modifying. I don't like engine swaps. I had a really bad experience with one.
This is factory engine. Shall we just continue arguing right now?
Sure, we could take a poll. No, it's mostly, no, they'll side with you.
Raise your hand, everyone. Engine swap. Yes.
Wait, I have to see.
Yes.
Yeah. Traders. Okay, I'm going to go back so we can field some questions. Go ahead and unmute if you want to ask a question. Oh, wait, is there a backup camera? Oh, no, this is an analog vehicle. We have crank windows and backup camera. Nope, you got to know where your vehicle ends yourself. Go ahead and, if you have a question.
You're the backup camera, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
you get out, and so the second person gets out.
Exactly.
Question.
Sure. Craig.
What's the total weight of the vehicle when you're totally loaded for expedition? About?
That I remember as, let's see, 2,800 kilograms, about 6,600 pounds.
Whoa.
Totally. That's with full fuel and full water.
My 80 with the 1HD FT, 9,200 pounds when I'm fully loaded.
Oh cow! How did you do that? The 80's pretty heavy.
Lots of fuel, lots of water, more recovery gear and tools that I should be carrying. Pop top, but nothing on top. Yeah, but and I can do 80 miles an hour up most hills, 75 up the Grapevine. So I vote for the one.
Stop it, Craig. Stop it.
What? Stop it. Sorry.
Stop it.
You send me a check and I won't keep going.
I don't know that we ever have, at least in Africa, we were rarely on roads that you could go that fast anyway. But in North America, you feel it more because we go long distances between the dirt road parts.
Craig.
My wife and I are moving to Bisbee, so we'll be near you. So you can.
Oh, cool.
We can collaborate if you want to do that.
Craig, one note on the total weight. That was before we had the Long Ranger tank put in.
Mm-hmm.
So add an extra 90 liters of fuel to that. So probably 7,000 pounds with that.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Condensation.
Hey, Chris. No, go ahead, Chris.
Somebody else had a question on condensation, so do that one first.
I didn't see who else had a question.
It was said, condensation.
Condensation in the camper.
Oh, sorry, I missed that. None, however, we've only been in desert areas except for Tasmania. And we didn't have to close it up. So I can't answer that yet. I don't tend to go places that's like colder than body temperature. Jonathan keeps trying to get me to go up to, way north in the winter. I'm like, no, sorry. You can send me a postcard. So he'll let you know when he goes to Alaska in the winter. Chris, your question?
Yeah, so I was wondering about spending time inside the camper, like at nighttime when it's cold outside, or if it's raining and you guys are just trying to get out of the weather. And with regards to seating comfort, so I know you've got the bench seat set up there, and I'm wondering what's your feedback on that versus, because that's something I'm thinking about with regards to hanging out inside and being able to sit in some sort of like a contoured chair that's maybe a little more reclining or comfortable to sit in for extended periods. So do you have any thoughts on that?
That's a good question, and that's one of the compromises. It is just a bench, and there is really nothing to lean back against because the little platform for the bed would kind of hit you in the back of the head. So in terms of sitting and reclining inside, that was definitely a compromise. We could have rearranged the interior if we didn't want that long cabinet on the side.
Mm-hmm.
We could have divided it in two and made a little footwell in between them and put a couple of fore and aft facing seats in there. That would have made significantly more comfortable seating inside, but that would have negated some storage space, and it would have negated that nice long slot where the table goes. So,
okay.
Personal choice.
Yeah, and we haven't spent, so we also tend to just sort of, when we're overlanding, we swap to a different schedule. We don't stay up late. We have dinner fairly early, gets dark, you might sit around for an hour or so, but we'll go to bed early and then get up with the sun. So we don't spend a lot of time sitting in the vehicle. We'll just go to bed. Sort of swap our time around.
Yeah, I think if we were with the bat awning outside, if we were going to be somewhere where it was raining for a long time, we'd put up the little walls and have a pretty well sheltered outdoor space for the exterior table and the Kermit chairs. So that would be our refuge for long-term rain.
Cool. Thank you. Another question with regards to indoor plumbing. Have you had any desires or wishes for toilet facilities inside the vehicle or shower facilities inside the vehicle, or is using all that stuff outside just fine over the time that you spent on the road?
Go
We've
ahead.
got our chemical toilet, the PETT, the PET system that that stores, if I wanted it, would store under the Can's kitchen, but we haven't used it in this vehicle. We much prefer just doing our business outside, shower outside. You know, we had the 4-wheel camper with the fancy shower inside, with the PET toilet inside, and you know, I don't miss it. Interestingly enough, the only time I really use the indoor toilet is if we ended up camping, you know, like you end up having to sleep at a gas station because you're transiting or something, or not again, you know, like someplace in a parking lot where there is no place to go to the bathroom for girls. And also in parts of Africa, no matter where you stop, sometimes there's always people around. So going to the bathroom is an interesting social experience.
All right, cool. Good feedback. Thank you.
Well, I think it's 5 after. We went a little bit over. Ragnar, did you have a question? I saw did you have your hand up?
There's a hose on the back of the Can's kitchen. It goes towards the back door. Is that a hose or a cord?
That's the propane.
Yeah, I see. And what do you do for mosquitoes and bugs?
The camper has the pop top has a screen, and then I've got a screen that'll go over the whole back door. It goes on with magnets, but we haven't had to use it yet.
Oh, I see. Great. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, I think we're going to wrap up. I will email everyone the links when we get this all online with all the resources and things. I'm going to, one more time, if you can copy this.
Jonathan, thank you.
Here's the survey. I'll also, you can click that link for the survey to tell us what you thought, and then also I'll email that to you guys too. So thank you everybody for coming. Feel free to take yourselves off mute and say bye, and thank you. Hope everyone's.
That was great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see everybody. Sorry we can't see you guys in person at Overland Expos and stuff. That's been really, really hard not to see you guys in person.
Come back to Virginia soon.
I know. Well, next year.
Thank you both.
Okay. Thank
Bye,
you.
Chris.
Bye.
Bye bye.